All right. Let's make a podcast. This is this is a show I'm doing. I've been podcasting for a very long time. Let's start there. My name is Slade Ham, a stand-up comedian, filmmaker, writer, bunch of things. I've been actively avoiding jobs since I was 14. Here we are. Podcasts have been part of my life for a ridiculous amount of time. I host still the Whiskey Brothers podcast. Comes out now bi-weekly, by twice a month. I don't know what is the difference there. Bi-weekly and bi-monthly. Bi-weekly is twice every other week. Bi-monthly is you'll find out I know far less than I think I do. It's bi-weekly or bi-monthly. It comes out twice a month, every other week on, I think, Tuesdays. We're still kind of sorting that out. We're up to almost 1,050 episodes, which is an absurd amount of podcasts. I don't remember any. You know how, like, your brain just filters out the unnecessary? Like the stuff you do a billion times. Like you go to your job, whatever your job is. You go to your job every single day. You've driven that drive thousands of times. And how many of them do you remember? 0? 2, 3? The time you saw the wreck? The time the kangaroo ran across the road? You remember the odd stuff, but our brains and our memories shove all the rest of that into a box. And that's where I am with the Whiskey Brothers. I've spent over 1,000 hours in the room with these guys, and I don't remember any of it. So we've made some really great art, and I love it, and it's fantastic. But we've gone through, when you've done something for that long, we started the podcast in 2011, February 2011. Nobody was doing podcasts. You were like, if you started a podcast, you were guaranteed to make the top 100 podcasts because there weren't 100 podcasts. That's probably an exaggeration. But we were, I have screenshots from back in the day of the Whiskey Brothers position between like Adam Carolla and Joe Rogan in the top 10. It was crazy. Crazy. We had great guests. Like, you could get guests because nobody had access to podcasts. So Attell and Stanhope and those guys would jump on. We had some really good episodes with them, and then like everything, because you got to think about what it took to make a podcast in 2011. One, video was out of the equation. You couldn't even shoot 3 cameras live, I don't think, in 2011. Maybe I'm making this up. Maybe my brain is thinking of things from 2000. But I know that first decade of whatever that is, the aughts, the zeros, all the way up until like 2010, right around the turn of the decade, the technology to make video was not accessible to everybody. Cameras were like 3-chip digital, but they recorded on mini DV. So they recorded on tape. You had to dump that. You had to capture it into your software and then edit it from there. And my computer was never one that was, beefy enough to handle all that. So we shot audio, and audio, even then, we were all analog. It was real microphones with real cords plugged into. We were still doing that, but all plugged into an analog board, and then that run it. So you had background hiss and noise and this, and then our RSS files or our XML files that would create the RSS feed I'd hand write them, like hand code. Now you just go to Libsyn and wherever, and you just type in your information. It populates everything, sends it on out. We've created like this fantastic. That's what's changed the most in the last however long, I think, is that we buried all the complicated machinery, all the coding you had to do, all the work you had to do on the back end, even graphic design, needing to know Photoshop and layers and this and that. Stuff like Canva and Rush have simplified it, where it's just drag and drop and plug and play, and anybody. My nieces are making movies, and that used to be the realm of specialists. And I think that's what's so scary about entertainment for a lot of people. And I think I'm okay with it, with where it all is in my head. I think I sit all right with it. But the accessibility of making art to the general public, their accessibility, their ability to make things with the same tools that used to separate specialists. You used to, if you wanted to get into art, you would get into art, then you would get good at it, and eventually if you got good enough at it, you would make enough money to buy better tools, which would let you make better art. And art is always about that, being able to stay there long enough to get good enough to sustain yourself. And that's what separates amateurs from professionals. That's why some people go back to their day jobs and some people open studios. A lot of digression to say that the podcasting world has now opened its doors to everyone. Who do you know that doesn't have a podcast? Your hairdresser, the clerk at the grocery store, your mailman, podcasting about how to avoid dog bites. And these people all have, just enough following to make you stick with it. And I don't know if that's a good thing or not. I'm a fan of. This is a tough part where I always try to be inspirational. I try to be motivational. And if you ask me about, how to get what's in your head out, I'm in. I'm your dude. But also, not everyone should do that. Maybe that's wrong. Say that out loud. I should rephrase that. Not everyone should do it so publicly. We're currently in a situation where I think people think that, how do I say this? That a component of art, of being an artist, is publicly getting accolades. That making a video or making something entertaining isn't worthwhile unless a certain amount of audience sees it, right? They put it on TikTok and or if they don't put it on TikTok, then it has no merit. So that's a tricky part of what we've thrown into the artistic mix. People aren't just making. We had this conversation with Jack Massing, who is a fantastic artist out of Houston. If you're unfamiliar with the Art Guys, look them up. Jack is half of that. Wonderfully artistic mind, and art is the act. Art is not. How do we put it? Or he put it, or I put it in this conversation. The art isn't the picture in the frame. Art is having gotten the picture in the frame. The whole process of conceptualizing this painting or this photo or whatever it is, and then capturing it in whatever medium, film or paint or whatever, and then getting it to the wall in the frame in the desired way. That's the art. This is a work of art. This is a piece of art, but it's not art. So if you're not in that creative space, you're not doing it for the act of, and that's not what's fulfilling to you, then again, you're going to be disappointed. That's the podcast for me. That's stand-up for me, because there's no guarantee that you're going to make it in this business. I used to believe there was. I used to believe that if you just stayed in it long enough, what you deserved would find its way to you. If you build it, it will come. If you create the proper YouTube channel, or you create the proper stand-up special, or you make the right podcast, or you shoot the right videos, or you write the right book, if you do all of those things, I just used to believe that you would get what you deserved. And entertainment is so not like that. Maybe it is in the long run. Maybe there's some karmic balance when it all comes out in the wash. But for the most part, if you're not liking what you're doing while you're doing it, the end result doesn't matter. People getting it or buying it or whatever, none of that matters. So podcasting comes with this layer of frustration now, and just a touch that, I go, okay, well, I was there first, and we were there well, and we did you check all the boxes, and then you look down, and you're like, oh, we might as well be coming out today. And the attrition rate too with the podcast, two of the cast we've gone through. Currently, the podcast is myself, Jerry Wayne Longmire, sometimes Sam Damaris. But we've had Kiki Maroon, Rob Mungle, John Wessling, Dale Cheeseman, Owen Dunn, Ashton Womack, Trey Tutson, Big Ed Blake. Rest his soul. It's a lot of cast members. I'm probably forgetting somebody too. So we're adjusting that schedule, and I'm going to. That's a long way of saying I'm going to play around with this the Slade Ham experiment. And I'll be doing some stuff with my good friend Jerry Wayne Longmire, who has mastered TikTok. How do these people do that? TikTok is such a foreign place for me. I'm a stand-up comic, so the thing I know how to make is fucking stand-up comedy. I know how to write jokes. I know how to sit down. 23 years in, I know how to sit down. There's so many, the process is so different for everybody, and I get it, and that's cool. Some people don't write at all. I have friends, good comedy friends, who just have ideas, and then they get them to the stage, and if they do them on stage enough, that becomes part of the act. Sometimes they do them on stage once, then they forget that they had the joke to begin with, and it just disappears. I am a fanatic. This right here, I don't know how many pages that is. I burned through these 5-star notebooks, same size, same multi-subject, and then I rip out a couple of the subjects so I have more space up front. Some of the back is like notes about other projects, like the Andy Huggins special I'm working on, and then I think there's some book stuff in the back, so I can find them easier. The rest of this is all notes, and then I have. I mean, this is a 5-page. That's a set list for a show I haven't done yet. So I write that way, and then there's everything in between, and that's what I know how to do. So TikTok comes along, and now everybody's talking in 7-second blurbs, or 20-second blurbs, and my brain doesn't think that way. If I was if I was Mitch Hedberg, Stephen Wright, or if I could just do that, would be wonderful. I'd have 200 jokes. I'd have one set would be enough digital material for TikTok for a year. Right? You spread that out. One set's enough for 2 years. Then you just write a set every 2 years. You're set probably. I don't work that way, so I'm trying to figure out where I fit best in this new thing. I've done it all. I'm fairly comfortable in most of it. I like a lot of it. But you gotta figure out who you want to compete with. TikTok is hot women making you listen to 19 seconds of a song's intro, and then they jiggle, and suddenly they're in their underwear, and you for half a second. And then it makes you watch it again, and of course you watch it again. It's just the psychology behind TikTok is terrifying to me. They know exactly where the buttons in our brains are. They just poke them. Or you're up against people taking other people's stand-up or other people's lyrics and then just lip-syncing it. And there's merit to it. I got friends killing it right now on TikTok. I'm not sure that I have a place there. I've had a couple of stand-up bits do okay. The rest of it's just, I make travelogues and write hours and books. It's long form. So Facebook and Twitter are just, you remember that obstacle course at the end of American Gladiators? That where you had the gauntlet. At the end, you had to run. There were paper walls, and sometimes behind them were gladiators just waiting to beat the shit out of you. And you'd already been through the whole course. You're tired. You're just trying to do something. You bust through that paper wall, and the gladiator throws you on the ground, delays you, messes up your day. That's how I feel every time I open up social media. Every time I open up Twitter or Facebook, I'm just afraid. It's like I'm punching through that paper wall. What's going to be on the other side? It's like a 1 out of 4 chance it's not violent. And I've had great success on there, by those dumb social media standards, likes and retweets and whatnot. But it's such a cesspool. The negative outweighs the positive so much. And then YouTube is just, I go in there and compete with everything. People building forest houses, those Indonesian people. Have you seen them? What do they do? They just go out and over. I assume it takes like 50 days, right? They're going out into the jungle and they're making their tools out of sticks, and then they dig, and they make a waterfall and a slide, and I don't know what they're doing. It looks like a dangerous place to build tree houses. Like there's tigers everywhere. They don't care. You got scientists explaining the world to you. Former engineers who just quit their jobs at NASA so they can make YouTube videos. You got 5-year-old kids building Lego sets. They got no arms, no legs. He's an inspiration. They just hold him up and shake him like a chihuahua. They throw him in a pile of Legos like a Roomba. The little kid, I'm Jimmy and I make Legos. Oh, you're Jimmy and you have a job. Your parents are making millions of dollars and they're probably leaving you a water dish. I'm sorry, Jimmy, the Lego builder. That's who I'm up against. So you can make the greatest piece of art in the world, and 16 people will watch it. So that's what we're up against. So I'm figuring it out, and this is one of the ways. Maybe I don't know what it's gonna be. Maybe I'll just vent and burn through the things that are terrorizing me in my regular life once a week. Maybe I'll do this once a morning. Maybe I'll give you my thoughts when they come. I don't know, but we'll do it again.